Nobody expected this to happen. Not after the endless clips, the viral reactions, the heated social media exchanges, or the industry-wide chaos that had already consumed hip-hop conversations for weeks. The feud between 50 Cent and T.I. had escalated far beyond typical rap banter, pulling in family members, old grudges, and deeply personal territory. Yet what just surfaced changes the entire trajectory of the story. According to multiple insiders, King Harris didn't just sit back in silence or continue doubling down online. Instead, he reached out directly, and not in anger or defiance, but in what sources describe as genuine desperation. Yes, you heard that correctly. Desperation. Behind the scenes, King Harris allegedly made a move that caught many off guard. He contacted 50 Cent, pleading with him to halt the rollout of an upcoming documentary before things spiraled beyond repair. When insiders say too far, they mean content so damaging that once released, there might be no path back to normalcy for the Harris family. Whatever unreleased footage remains in that project is reportedly far more explosive than the clips already leaked to the public. Think about that for a moment. The material we've already seen has shaken the internet, divided the hip-hop community, and forced people to question long-held perceptions about T.I.'s image, his household dynamics, and how the family presents itself. Clips have circulated showing tense family moments, emotional outbursts, and private interactions that were never intended for mass consumption. If King Harris himself, the same young man who once fired back aggressively in defense of his mother, is now stepping forward to beg for the project to stop, then the remaining content must cut even deeper. What exactly is still locked away in those unreleased scenes? And why is he so visibly afraid of them seeing the light of day? This wasn't a casual, "Hey, chill" text or a half-hearted attempt at damage control. Whispers that began spreading late last night paint the outreach as emotional and urgent, the kind of message sent by someone who feels the walls closing in around their entire world. One insider described it as less of an argument and more of a plea to prevent total collapse. King wasn't trying to win a debate or save face publicly. He was attempting to contain a situation that threatened to destroy reputations, relationships, and futures in one devastating wave. Here's where the unease sets in for many observers. While King Harris works quietly behind the scenes to pump the brakes, 50 Cent shows no signs of slowing down. In fact, some sources claim he has accelerated the pressure, dropping more hints, teasing additional clips, and maintaining a steady rollout that keeps the public hooked. That shift transforms this from mere entertainment drama into something heavier and more consequential. It's no longer just about what has already been exposed. It's about the unreleased material still waiting in the wings, and whether anyone possesses the power to stop it before irreversible damage occurs. The central question haunting the timeline is simple yet profound. What did King Harris see or learn that triggered such a desperate reaction? And why does the entire situation feel like it's teetering on the edge of a revelation capable of rewriting everything we thought we understood about these families and their long-simmering tensions? To truly grasp why King Harris would allegedly pivot from public bravado to private desperation, you have to examine the immense pressure he has carried throughout this saga. This isn't merely about one documentary or a series of viral clips. This is about a young man who has grown up entirely in the public eye, while his family's image is dismantled piece by piece under relentless scrutiny. King Harris was born into fame. From his earliest years, cameras followed him through reality television shows, interviews, social media posts, and high-profile family appearances. Audiences watched him mature from a child associated primarily as T.I.'s son into a young adult attempting to carve out his own identity. That transition has rarely been smooth. Every attempt to assert independence or speak his mind has collided with heavy expectations, from fans, critics, industry figures, and especially within his own household. T.I., known for his emphasis on control, structure, discipline, and maintaining a certain public image, set a high bar. King, however, has often moved with raw emotion and unfiltered reactions. There were viral moments where he clashed with authority, pushed back against perceived slights, or defended his family in ways that sparked debate rather than admiration. Each incident amplified the noise. The internet grew louder, more judgmental, and more invasive with every passing controversy. That kind of constant spotlight creates layers of stress that build quietly over time. Layer on top of that the current feud with 50 Cent. What began as playful jabs and ego-driven exchanges quickly turned personal when 50 Cent targeted Tiny Harris with unflattering posts. King responded fiercely in defense of his mother, leading to the now infamous disrespect toward 50 Cent's late mother, a line that ignited widespread condemnation and brought Jay-Z into the conversation. The situation snowballed from there. The documentary, rumored to be something along the lines of Surviving T.I. and Tiny, or similar expose-style content, represents a new level of threat. Insiders suggest it digs into deeply personal territory, family dynamics, private arguments, past incidents, and moments captured in settings that were never meant for public viewing. The clips already leaked feel like carefully edited fragments pulled from a much larger archive. If that's accurate, then an entire untold narrative sits unreleased, capable of reshaping how the world perceives not just King, but the entire Harris family. Imagine being in King's position. You know damaging content exists, footage that could define your character, your upbringing, your relationships, and your family's legacy, and you have zero control over its release. That loss of agency turns stress into something closer to terror. It explains why his alleged outreach to 50 Cent feels so different from previous public outbursts. This wasn't performed for likes or clout. It was a private attempt to contain the fire before it consumed everything. 50 Cent's role adds another complex dimension. He rarely moves without purpose. His history with strategic media drops, whether through television projects, social media campaigns, or calculated timing, shows a man who understands narrative control. The documentary's emergence coincided perfectly with heightened scrutiny on T.I. and his family. That alignment doesn't feel accidental. It feels like positioning, releasing material in measured doses to build momentum, keep audiences engaged, and maintain pressure without giving everything away at once. Some insiders go further, suggesting portions of the footage may not have been originally intended for broad release. Whispers point to older recordings, private archives, or material filmed for entirely different contexts that have now been repurposed. If true, questions arise about how the content was obtained, its ethical boundaries, and whether it crosses into territory that feels exploitative rather than expository. This divide explains the fractured industry reaction. Some view the project as necessary truth-telling that holds powerful figures accountable. Others see it as crossing sacred lines, turning private family pain into public spectacle for entertainment and revenge. King Harris finds himself trapped in the middle, one side controlled by a formidable figure like 50 Cent who dictates the pace, the other side his own blood, identity, and future hanging in the balance. Mentally, the toll must be enormous. Every new clip triggers fresh waves of reaction videos, comment section wars, podcast breakdowns, and memes. Your life, your mistakes, your most vulnerable moments become content for strangers to dissect. When someone in that position reaches out privately to plead for restraint, it no longer sounds irrational. It sounds like a necessary survival instinct. At some point, entertainment collides with real human consequences, reputational harm, emotional damage, fractured relationships, and long-term career impacts. We still don't know the full scope of what remains unreleased. If the already leaked portions cause this level of division and concern, then whatever King Harris fears most must cut deeper. Perhaps moments that reveal family tensions, personal struggles, or incidents that challenge the polished image the Harris family has cultivated for years. The situation shifted dramatically once King allegedly made direct contact. What had felt like chaos happening around him suddenly became a private confrontation he was actively trying to influence. Sources describe the exchange as emotional, tense, and uncomfortable, an exchange where the weight of every word carried real stakes. King wasn't posturing or negotiating from strength. He was speaking from a place of wanting to prevent further escalation. 50 Cent's reported response only intensified the stakes. Rather than backing down or offering reassurance, he allegedly remained calm, cold, and unbothered, signaling that the rollout would continue on his terms. That contrast, one side desperately trying to contain the damage, the other locked in on pushing forward, exploded the underlying tension. Shortly afterward, a new clip surfaced that felt markedly different, heavier, more serious, and more revealing than previous drops. Instead of sparking playful debate or memes, it triggered genuine discomfort. Comments flooded platforms with variations of "this doesn't feel right," and "why is this even being put out there?" The timing, arriving right after King's alleged plea, struck any as too precise to be coincidental. It carried the energy of a deliberate response, a message that the machine wasn't stopping despite private appeals. Suddenly, the question on everyone's mind sharpened. Has this become deeply personal? What began as rap beef and family defense has evolved into something that feels like targeted exposure with real emotional weight behind it. As the drama unfolds, the culture watches with a mix of fascination and unease. King Harris's shift from defiance to desperation humanizes a young man who has spent much of his life performing strength under constant observation. It raises broader conversations about the limits of public feuds, the ethics of weaponizing private footage, generational pressures in celebrity families, and the fine line between accountability and destruction. 50 Cent continues to operate with the precision that built his empire, using media as both sword and shield. T.I. and the Harris family find themselves in defensive mode, balancing public statements with private damage control. And somewhere in the middle sits unreleased material that could redefine the entire narrative. The edge we're standing on feels precarious. One more leak, one more calculated drop, or one more private conversation could tip the scales in ways none of us can fully predict. Because if King Harris is reacting with this level of urgency behind the scenes, then whatever still hides in the shadows of that documentary may prove more consequential than anything the public has witnessed so far. This situation has moved past simple entertainment. It now sits at the intersection of legacy, family, power, and consequence. And as the next chapter approaches, the only certainty is that the stakes have never been higher, for King, for T.I., for 50 Cent, and for the culture observing every twist in real time. Nobody expected the situation to evolve this way. Not after the flood of clips, the viral reactions, the endless debates, and the chaos that had already consumed hip-hop conversations for weeks. What began as a heated exchange between 50 Cent and T.I. had long since spilled into deeply personal territory, dragging families, legacies, and private moments into the public arena. Yet what surfaced next changed the tone entirely. It no longer felt like entertainment or clever storytelling. It started to feel targeted. And once something turns personal in this culture, there is rarely a clean way back. While the public drama played out in full view, a different kind of pressure was building rapidly behind the scenes. Insiders close to T.I.'s camp reportedly expressed deep frustration and growing anger. Whispers circulated of internal discussions about taking more aggressive steps to halt the momentum. What those steps might involve remained unclear, whether legal, strategic, or otherwise. But the shift in energy was unmistakable. This was no longer simply about leaked clips or social media jabs. It had become about reputation, legacy, and the protection of family. When those elements enter the equation, people tend to move with heightened urgency and different calculations. At the center of it all stood King Harris, a young man already navigating intense public scrutiny, now watching his life and family dynamics transformed into real-time content. The weight of that exposure can push anyone toward a breaking point. Online conversations began reflecting this shift. The focus moved beyond the specific contents of the documentary to a more fundamental question: should this even be happening at all? The division deepened quickly. On one side, voices insisted that truth deserved to surface no matter how uncomfortable. On the other, a growing chorus pushed back hard, arguing that this had crossed into exploitation. Comments like "this ain't truth anymore," "this is going too far and somebody needs to stop this," gained traction. The pressure was no longer aimed solely at T.I. or King Harris. It began landing on 50 Cent as well. Observers watched closely to see how far he was willing to push, and whether he would eventually pull back or continue escalating. Just when it seemed the story might stabilize, another layer of unpredictability emerged. A viral post circulating late at night claimed there was significantly more footage still unreleased, not minor extensions of what had already leaked, but material described as the kind they really don't want out. Whether the claim was fully accurate mattered less than the impact. The mere possibility of additional damaging content was enough to send fresh shockwaves through the industry. If more material existed and was waiting to drop, the situation wasn't decelerating, it was accelerating. This raised critical questions. What exactly is 50 Cent holding? How far is he prepared to take this? If King Harris has already attempted to intervene privately without success, then whatever remains in the vault could dwarf anything the public has witnessed so far. The sense that the situation remained far from overhung heavily over every conversation. Then the intensity multiplied overnight. What had been viral drama transformed into what many described as a full-blown industry crisis. A fresh wave of documentary clips began surfacing, longer, clearer, and far more revealing than previous fragments. These weren't vague snippets designed to tease. They carried weight and detail that immediately altered the public mood. The reaction shifted from curiosity or schadenfreude to genuine discomfort. Comments flooded platforms with sentiments such as, "This ain't even entertaining anymore. Why does this feel so personal? And something about this doesn't sit right." When an audience stops being entertained and begins feeling uneasy, the dynamic changes. The content crosses from spectacle into potentially harmful territory, raising ethical questions that the culture rarely addresses head-on. As viewers dissected the new clips, a pattern started to emerge. These weren't random moments captured by chance. Specific scenes appeared to build toward a deliberate narrative, moments of tension, conflict, and vulnerability that painted the Harris family in a light far removed from the controlled, structured image T.I. had long projected. When pieced together, the footage told a story that clashed with the public persona many had grown accustomed to seeing. That realization sparked a deeper conversation. It was no longer simply about what audiences were watching, but why they were being shown this particular version of events. One viral comment captured the shift perfectly. "This ain't just footage. This is editing with a purpose." Almost instantly, the debate moved from the content itself to the intention behind its release. Was this accountability or calculated revenge? Was it truth-telling or selective storytelling designed to damage? Behind the scenes, the pressure inside T.I.'s camp reportedly reached a new threshold. Insiders claimed the team began exploring more aggressive options, not just public statements or social media responses, but calculated moves that could include legal avenues or strategic countermeasures. At this stage, the battle was no longer only about shaping public opinion. It had become a fight for control over the narrative and whether that control could be reclaimed. The involvement of lawyers or serious strategists signaled how gravely the situation was now viewed. When legal teams enter hip-hop disputes of this nature, the stakes rise dramatically and quickly. Just as the tension seemed to peak, another twist landed without warning. A post circulated rapidly before disappearing just as fast, claiming that King Harris had not reached out to 50 Cent only once. He had allegedly made a second, even more urgent attempt. This time the message carried heavier emotional weight. According to the circulating claim, King emphasized that the situation was no longer just about him. It affected his entire family. The plea reportedly urged 50 Cent to stop before things went too far. Though unconfirmed, the post resonated strongly because it humanized the pressure King was under. Suddenly, the story transcended online leaks and became about tangible, real-world consequences. Continued releases wouldn't just generate views or memes. They could fracture relationships, damage long-term reputations, and create lasting emotional scars. The line between digital drama and genuine harm felt increasingly blurred, and nobody seemed certain where it had been crossed. The escalation refused to pause. Another rumor quickly followed, powerful enough to rattle the narrative once more. Whispers suggested the existence of one final, unreleased piece of footage being deliberately held back. Why? Because, according to those familiar with the situation, this particular clip had the potential to change everything. We have heard similar claims before in hip-hop beefs, but this time the atmosphere felt different. The way insiders spoke, the consistent escalation, and the visible anxiety from multiple parties suggested this wasn't mere hype. Something substantial appeared to be withheld, something capable of shifting perspectives dramatically. The central questions now dominated discussions. What exactly is contained in that final clip? Why has it not been released yet? And most critically, what would happen if it dropped? If the material already public has generated this level of chaos, division, and discomfort, then whatever remains hidden could push the situation past the point of no return. At this stage, the idea that it might break everything no longer sounded hyperbolic. It felt plausible. Once the latest wave of clips hit the internet, the reaction didn't simply grow, it multiplied across every platform simultaneously. X, formerly Twitter, became flooded with heated debates. TikTok filled with emotional reaction videos, tearful breakdowns, and passionate arguments. YouTube channels rushed out honestly. Videos within minutes, each attempting to unpack the new footage. Every corner of social media converged on the same uncomfortable question: has this gone too far? Initially, opinions remained split along familiar lines. Some continued to champion the release of any material as necessary transparency, especially involving public figures. Others grew increasingly vocal in their opposition, arguing that the personal nature of the content had stripped away any entertainment value and entered exploitative territory. What made this wave different was the tone. The conversation carried a heavier, more serious weight. Jokes and memes decreased while expressions of genuine concern increased. People weren't just picking sides in a rap beef anymore. Many were questioning the broader ethics of turning family struggles into serialized content for public consumption. This evolution highlighted deeper tensions within modern hip-hop and celebrity culture. The rise of reality-style documentaries and unfiltered social media has blurred boundaries between private life and public persona. What was once protected behind closed doors now becomes ammunition in personal disputes. King Harris, still relatively young and navigating his own identity, finds himself at the center of a storm that began long before he was old enough to fully understand its mechanics. T.I.'s position grows increasingly complex. As a father and veteran artist who has built his brand on principles of control and leadership, watching his family's most intimate moments dissected online must carry a unique pain. His camp's reported move toward more aggressive countermeasures suggests a man fighting not only for reputation, but for the preservation of his household's stability. 50 Cent, true to his history, continues operating with calculated precision. His approach, releasing material in waves rather than all at once, keeps the public engaged while maintaining pressure. Whether this stems from genuine grievances dating back years or a masterclass in narrative control remains debated. What is clear is that he shows no immediate signs of relenting, even in the face of private pleas and growing public discomfort. For King Harris, the experience must feel overwhelming. After defending his mother publicly and facing backlash for crossing a sacred line regarding 50 Cent's late mother, he now confronts the possibility of even more personal exposure. His alleged desperate outreach represents a significant pivot, from defiance to a raw attempt at damage control. It reveals a young man beginning to grasp the long-term weight of words and actions in an industry where nothing truly disappears. The broader culture finds itself at a crossroads. On one hand, the appetite for unfiltered content and keeping it real remains strong. On the other, growing voices question where accountability ends and cruelty begins. When does exposure serve justice? And when does it become a tool for settling old scores at the expense of real people's mental health and family bonds? As more clips continue to surface and rumors of final unreleased material persist, the situation remains fluid and volatile. T.I.'s camp appears poised to explore every available option to regain control. King Harris's private desperation underscores the human cost behind the headlines. And 50 Cent holds the keys to whatever comes next, timing each move with the strategic patience that defined his career. The internet continues to light up with analysis, outrage, concern, and speculation. But beneath the noise lies a quieter, more serious conversation about boundaries in the digital age. How much of a person's life, especially a young person still finding their way, should be fair game when powerful figures clash? Or does entertainment end and real damage begin? Meanwhile, TikTok detectives went into overdrive. Creators broke down every second of the new clips, comparing timestamps, analyzing edits, zooming in on facial expressions, and dissecting context. Some breakdowns went massively viral, pulling in millions of views. Common observations included, "Wait, this clip cuts off right before something important, and they showing one side of this. This don't feel complete." These forensic-style breakdowns complicated the narrative further. It was no longer just about the content itself. The focus shifted to context, editing choices, and whether the public was receiving the full story or a carefully curated version designed to push a specific agenda. Skepticism grew. What had started as entertainment now felt like a puzzle with missing pieces, and many suspected those missing pieces mattered most. In the midst of all this noise and analysis, one element remained consistent and increasingly maddening: silence. There was no public response from T.I., no statement from King Harris, and no direct explanation or comment from 50 Cent. That collective quiet drove the internet into a frenzy. Comments flooded every platform. "Speak on it, say something, clear this up." The absence of any official word only amplified the tension. When something this large unfolds and the central figures stay mute, it usually signals that far more is happening behind the scenes than the public realizes. Just when the situation appeared as divided as it could possibly get, a final wave of reactions pushed it even further. A few high-profile voices, artists and figures who rarely comment on beefs of this nature, began hinting that this might not end quietly. One widely shared comment captured the shift. "This ain't just drama. This can have real consequences." The word consequences landed with new weight. People were no longer watching purely for entertainment value. They were watching for impact, for potential fallout, and for what might happen next in real life. Would T.I. finally respond? Would King Harris break his silence? Would 50 Cent continue pushing forward relentlessly? Or would something decisive occur behind closed doors that altered the entire trajectory again? At this point, nobody could predict the outcome with certainty. That uncertainty is precisely what made the situation feel so intense, so unpredictable, and so far from over. When an entire culture is glued to a story, yet no one possesses the full picture, conditions are ripe for the craziest twists. And just when it seemed the drama had already reached its absolute limit, when the leaked clips, emotional reactions, mounting pressure, and heavy silence had pushed everything to the brink, the final twist arrived late that night. It wasn't another video clip. It wasn't a fiery statement. It was a leaked screenshot. The image spread rapidly across platforms. Though unconfirmed and impossible to fully verify at the time, the way it circulated and the reactions it provoked made its impact immediate and powerful. According to multiple reposts and commentary, the screenshot allegedly captured a private exchange connected to King Harris's earlier attempts to stop the documentary's rollout. The message in question reportedly read something along the lines of, "This not just content to me, this my real life. If more of this come out, it's going to mess up everything around me." Whether the screenshot genuinely came from King Harris remains unknown. What mattered was how authentic the emotion felt. The raw vulnerability in those words struck a chord. Suddenly, the conversation transcended clips and documentary footage. It became about real human consequences, emotional damage, family strain, reputational harm, and the long-term effects on a young man still trying to find his footing. If that message reflected even a portion of the truth unfolding behind the scenes, then this situation ran far deeper than most had assumed. It suggested a young person grappling with forces much larger than himself, watching his private world get dismantled in public view while pleading for restraint. Shortly after the screenshot went viral, another rumor gained momentum. Insiders claimed that 50 Cent had seen the message yet chose not to respond. If accurate, the standoff had crystallized. One side was desperately trying to contain the damage and protect what remained of their private life. The other side appeared unmoved, determined to maintain control of the narrative and continue the release schedule. That kind of unresolved tension does not simply fade away. It builds, layer by layer, increasing the likelihood of a more dramatic breaking point. The leaked screenshot, combined with the surrounding rumors, created a heavy cliffhanger. The public now had a glimpse into the personal stakes King Harris allegedly felt. At the same time, 50 Cent's continued silence and forward momentum suggested he remained undeterred. T.I.'s camp, meanwhile, stayed largely quiet on the surface while reportedly weighing more serious options behind the scenes. As the night wore on, the entire culture remained locked in, refreshing feeds and speculating wildly. The situation had evolved from rap beef into something more complicated, a collision of legacy, family protection, public exposure, and private pain. With each new development, the ethical questions grew louder. How much is too much? Where does accountability end and cruelty begin? And what responsibility do powerful figures carry when their personal disputes spill into the lives of the next generation? Nobody knows exactly what will happen next. Will more footage drop? Will someone finally break the silence with a substantive response? Will legal or strategic moves emerge from T.I.'s side? Or will private conversations behind the scenes lead to a quiet de-escalation that the public never fully learns about? What is clear is that this chapter has moved far beyond entertainment. The leaked screenshot served as a stark reminder that behind the viral clips and heated debates are real people, young and old, whose lives, relationships, and futures hang in the balance. The call to Ray continues to watch, divided yet captivated, waiting to see whether boundaries will be respected or whether the pursuit of truth will push everything past the point of no return. The tension remains thick. The silence feels heavier than ever, and the next move, wherever it comes from, could redefine not only this particular feud, but how the industry handles personal exposure in the years ahead. Another piece of information started circulating quietly at first, then gained momentum and spread everywhere. The claim was that the next part of the documentary might already be scheduled for release. If true, this revelation suggested the entire situation was far from random or spontaneous. It pointed to something carefully planned and methodically executed. The clips we've seen, the explosive reactions, the heavy silence from key players, and the growing tension, all of it could be part of a larger, unfolding strategy. That realization made the current moment feel even more intense. We are no longer just witnessing what has already happened. We are watching the early stages of what is about to happen next. And the scariest part is that nobody outside a small inner circle knows exactly what is contained in that upcoming drop. If the footage released so far has already caused this level of chaos, dividing the industry, sparking ethical debates, and leaving families under intense scrutiny, then whatever comes next has the potential to do more than shake the internet. It could completely flip the narrative, forcing people to reevaluate everything they thought they understood about the conflict between 50 Cent, T.I., and the Harris family. The central questions hanging over the timeline are now urgent. What exactly is in that next installment? Is there truly more unreleased footage that could reveal even deeper layers? And if it drops, will it bring clarity and resolution, or will it escalate the damage and make reconciliation even harder? One thing has become crystal clear: this story is nowhere near finished, not even close. The next strategic move, whenever it arrives, might be the one that permanently changes the direction of the entire saga. After everything that has unfolded, the alleged desperate messages from King Harris, the divided reactions across social media, the mounting pressure, and the persistent rumors of additional footage still waiting in the wings, it is worth taking a step back to reflect honestly. This situation is not simple, it is not black and white, and it is definitely not over. So let me ask you directly, what do you think is really happening behind the scenes? Do you believe King Harris actually reached out to 50 Cent in a genuine attempt to stop the documentary from going further? Or do you suspect that story is just another rumor being circulated to add fuel to the drama and humanize one side of the conflict? And what about 50 Cent? Do you see him as someone courageously exposing uncomfortable truths that powerful figures would prefer to keep hidden? Or do you think he is taking things too far, using his platform and resources to prolong a personal vendetta and keep the spotlight firmly on himself? Let's be real. There is a fine line between powerful storytelling and crossing serious boundaries. Right now, the culture cannot seem to agree on exactly where that line should be drawn. Some people firmly believe that if the material is authentic, it deserves to be shown no matter how uncomfortable it makes everyone feel. Others argue just as passionately that this involves real human lives, not mere content for entertainment or clout. A family's private struggles, a young man's coming-of-age moments, and long-standing tensions between veterans are being turned into serialized public drama. At what point does exposure become exploitation? Where do you personally stand on this? Go down to the comments right now and make your position clear. Are you rocking with 50 Cent on this approach, believing he has every right to release whatever he has? Or do you think he should pull back before the situation causes lasting, irreversible harm? Don't just drop a short one-word answer. Break it down. Explain your reasoning. This is one of those rare situations where individual opinions actually help shape the broader conversation. The culture is split down the middle. The energy is tense and raw, and everyone, from casual fans to industry insiders, is watching closely to see what happens next. If you have made it this far through the breakdown, that means you are truly locked into the story. And trust me, you do not want to miss what comes next. Because if that scheduled next part of the documentary actually drops, if T.I. finally issues a substantive response, or if King Harris decides to break his silence, this entire situation could flip dramatically once again. We will be right here the moment anything new surfaces, breaking it all down in real time, analyzing the clips, the reactions, the implications, and possible motives behind every move. So do me a favor right now. Hit that like button to show support and help this video reach more people who need to see this perspective. And make sure you subscribe with notifications turned on so you never miss an update. Something about this whole ordeal still feels unfinished, like we are standing in the middle of something much larger than the clips and leaks we have seen so far. The next twist, whether it comes in the form of new footage, a public statement, a private resolution, or an unexpected intervention, might be the one that changes everything we thought we knew. Stay ready, stay tuned, and I'll catch you in the next update as soon as it breaks.